Welcome back and hello if you're new. So this week I'm going to be talking about an album that sort of almost passed me by really. There's been a lot of bubbling around in the underground about this band, combining the elements of electronica, 90s new metal and even sometimes death metal with hardcore. I present to you guys Vane's Errorzone. So Vane are a very interesting band. It's not an easy listen, I'll give you that much. The sound is very corrosive, incredibly caustic, and often at times very packed in together. You know, it's one of those bands where they consistently sound like they're literally about to run out of steam and derail everything. There's this kind of spirit of the 90s that the band have weirdly embodied in 2018. For example, Old Data in a Dead Machine has got this real sort of 90s element in the verse. But then you've got tracks the likes of Rebirth Protocol, which almost sounds like 1999 era Slipknot, with this kind of really sort of quite slow and sloping guitar riff. And then Anesthesia starts with this kind of almost siren-like guitar sound, which is it's really odd, but it creates this sort of unnerving quality to it. And then again, Doom Tech sounds like a riff that would be straight out of 1999 era Slipknot. As much as Vane might worship the 90s, there are also some classic elements of hardcore on the album. There's no shortage of breakdowns, let me give you that. For example, Old Data in a Dead Machine, there's an amazing breakdown where the band just, completely slow it down. And there's this midsection of Demise Automation, which again has that sort of stomping kind of feel to it. You know, one of the examples is again in Doom Tech. But then the band also kind of bring it back again in Doom Tech with another breakdown near the end of the song. But there's even elements of grindcore on here as well. For example, End Eternal, the final section really goes for the jugular, and it's got such a vicious sort of nature about it. You know, you wouldn't kind of find it amiss in maybe Pig Destroyer or Misery Index. But probably one of the biggest things is just how experimental this band are. The band use all sorts of different pedals and effects from what I can hear on tracks, and it creates an absolutely brilliant atmosphere. For example, on Virus Vibrance, there's this, it's almost like a really sharp kind of, it reminds me of the sound that you heard on I'm Broken by Pantera. Again, there are similar ideas in the dynamics. Kind of pulling a machine head here, the band use artificial harmonics in a really interesting way, and harmonics to create almost kind of like a small amount of melody amongst all of this really kind of corrosive noise. There's a fantastic sort of like drum and bass section in Virus Vibrance, which really comes out of nowhere and shows their experimental side. And also, again, name-dropping Doom Tech again, there's a fantastic example of the band's really vicious style of vocal, but the band also have this weird sort of semi-Deftones-esque air to them, which is really, really interesting and creates this really quite unhinged melody. And there's some really interesting use of vocal harmonies at the end of the title track Errorzone, and a great use of piano as well. In terms of the negatives, The album can be a little bit too much sometimes if you're not quite in the mood for it, so I would bear that in mind when you're listening to it. It can just be a little bit overwhelming, and I did find myself sort of wandering around a bit at times, but overall, it's a solid effort for sure. The album artwork is a perfect throwback to that kind of 90s era. It really encompasses the band's sound and also their sort of ethos, I think, and it's got this real sense of danger to it, which I really enjoyed. It's got the scatterbrained nature of Dillinger Escape Plan, coupled with the vehemence of Slipknot and the off-kilter melodies of Deftones, yet all the while having their own unique approach. But overall, this is an incredibly solid effort and really different in today's day and age. For that reason, I'm going to give the record a 4 out of 5. Vane's Errorzone is set for a June 22nd release, and you can pick up the album right underneath me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure to tune in over on my Apocalyptic Anniversary series at Metal Sucks. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another review.